Leadville race for anyone that doesn't know?
So the Leadville Trail 100 is it's a 100-mile, it's 50-mile out and back. So you start in town in Leadville, and you run to a little bitty mountain village called Winfield. And right before you get to Winfield is Hope Pass, which is about 3,500 feet of climbing in 3 miles, going over the front side. You make it to Winfield, which is 5 miles over the mountain.
How do you qualify for this?
You don't qualify for Leadville. It's one of the only major 100-mile races in the United States that doesn't have a qualification process. And for that reason, the finish rate is abysmal. It's like 45 to 50% finish rate in the race.
How many people participated this year?
Every year it's somewhere around 800. The official roster this year was 816 participants.
How many people finished the race?
So the race finisher count ended up being like 367, so less than 400, so less than 50% of what they had on the race roster.
Repeat this question. How was your training? What did you do differently to prepare for this race?
So to prepare for this race, and I've never done in my training before, is basically put running as the secondary focus. And I focused a ton on my hiking skills, climbing. Out at Arcadia, I did my night run out at Arcadia doing dam repeats. Just tried to implement as much climbing as I possibly could, because I knew, this race has almost 15,000 feet of gain, vertical gain, and I'm a very, very weak climber. Being from Oklahoma, there's not a lot to climb. So Arcadia dam repeats, and then a lot of rucking. Brian Tiener here at Deer Creek, he's a big rucker. I hooked up with him and did a ruck, and just did a couple, 3 times a week, 5-mile rucks with a 40-pound ruck, just to focus on my hiking cadence and just get that up.
How did you qualify for this?
So I've wanted to do Leadville for 3 years. First year was in 2020, and I applied, didn't get it, but it got canceled. So 2021 applied, didn't get it. And for 2022, applied for the lottery. It's a lottery draw, and didn't get it. And so me, Jared, and Sarah Akins decided, hey, let's go run Silver Rush 50 miler, which is a Leadville Race Series race, and see if we can get a gold coin. So we went to Leadville in July last month, and ran the 50-mile race. And they have a race lottery there where you can put your name in the hat for a 100-mile token. And so we all 3 put in, and they were down to the last 4 tokens, and they called Sarah. They were doing a male draw, a female draw, and they called Sarah. And before I knew it, I heard my bib number. They drew the next male. It was me, bib 15. I'm celebrating, and I look back, and the next male, they called Jared. And so yeah, we all 3 made it into the 100-miler. They deferred. I was already been training, so I'm like, well, let's do it. So I ran it this year, and it was a blast.
What goes through your mind whenever you're running 100 miles?
Man, there's a lot of time for everything to go through your mind. If you got anything in life that might haunt you, it'll come up during a time span like that, especially when you get mentally exhausted. But you try to keep your head in the game as much as possible and focus on what you're trying to be doing. You got to stay on top of nutrition, how you feel. Constant body awareness, because a small issue can turn big pretty quickly when you're talking, 5 hours seems like 30 minutes in the grand scheme of things.
So what is next for you after this?
So actually this weekend I had a dream, and last year I was supposed to run the Grand Canyon rim to rim to rim, and 2 weeks before I was supposed to leave, I fell on a box jump and busted up my shin, ended up with 14 stitches and canceled the trip. And so I dreamt about that this weekend, and I'm supposed to be in Vegas for a real estate conference at the end of September. And I'm like, Vegas, how far is that from the Grand Canyon? 4 hours. Okay, so I extended my trip in Vegas. So I'm going solo, unsupported, rim to rim to rim at the Grand Canyon on September 30th.
Last 2 more questions. What was your main food source when you were running?
So my main food source while running is it's an idea I stole from Courtney Dalwalter. It's actually the first race that I've tried this. I prepped it in training, but mashed potatoes. I focus a lot on nutrition, and I don't like the gels and just junk chemicals that a lot of runners like to eat when running. And so I try to stick to whole food sources. So mashed potatoes, and I had a lot of fruit, pineapple, watermelon, and then some liquid calories like some Scratch, Super Fuel, and stuff like that.
All right, last question. How many miles did you run this past year?
This past year I've ran, I'd have to check my data, but somewhere between 23 and 2,400 miles. A lot of miles.